Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Engineering at Home. For our project this week, we'll be taking the Foil Boat Challenge. This challenge is to make a boat out of foil and other materials and see if it floats. Once we determine whether it floats, we'll see how many pennies it can hold before it sinks. Let's get started. Step 1 is to gather our materials. The materials you'll need are foil, a pile of pennies, tape, straws, and as an option, a plastic bag that is sealable with no holes, like a Ziploc. Step 2 is to make our boats. I'm going to show 3 examples that I made to demonstrate, but really, use your imagination, and make at least one boat that uses only foil to put your skills to the test. The first boat I made uses just foil and nothing else. I folded the foil in half because this boat is just made of foil and I want it to be as sturdy as can be. Then I folded the 2 longer sides up as high as I wanted the sides to be. Once I had those the way that I wanted, one at a time I brought the ends together and pinched them so that the seams are as far away from the top of the water as possible. The second boat example uses 2 straws, a piece of foil, and tape. First, I tape the straws to the foil, parallel to one another. Parallel is when 2 lines that are side by side are an equal distance from one another from end to end. Once I had my straws taped in place, I folded the foil up over the straws and added another piece of tape just to make sure they stayed put. Finally, I folded the remaining foil over a couple of times to make these sides be about as high as the sides with the straws. The third example I made uses a plastic bag, a piece of foil, and tape. First, I opened the bag and closed it most of the way. Before sealing it the rest of the way, I blew air in the hole to fill it up, and then zipped it shut. Now the bag is inflated. I got this idea by thinking of inflatable rafts and pool toys, and I was curious to see if it worked. We'll see. The next step for this example is to make a boat out of foil so that our pennies have somewhere to go during our flotation test. For this example, I folded up each side to be between a ½ inch and an inch. Then I sealed the edges. I folded them in and tucked the extra foil from the corner in and down, and sealed each one with a piece of tape to make sure it was secure. Step 3 is to plug the drain of the sink or bathtub and put our foil boats to the test. The first one we'll test is the boat that's just made out of foil. This boat does pass the float test and seemed to be pretty buoyant. Buoyancy is the ability or tendency to float in water. Now that we know it floats, it's time to add the pennies. Start by adding them a little at a time and slowly add more unless it starts to sink. This foil boat impressed me. It was able to hold all of the pennies without sinking. The second one we'll test is our boat that has the inflated plastic bag. Again, place it in the water and see if it floats. This boat also passes the float test, so now it's time to add the pennies. Again, add them slowly unless it starts to tip. An important thing to consider with boats is weight distribution. Weight distribution is important to consider because if too much weight is on one side of a boat, it will tip over. After I added a handful of pennies, this boat that was already a little lopsided tipped over because the weight of the pennies was not evenly distributed in the boat. The third one we'll test is our boat that has the straws on the sides. Again, place it in the water and see if it floats. This boat also passes the float test and looked very light on the water. It was also able to hold all of the pennies. To test out how strong this boat was, I adjusted the weight distribution by moving the pennies all to one side. After moving them all over to that side did start to sink. As an important reminder, after you're done testing out your own foil boats at home, be sure to get every last penny out of the sink or tub before you unplug the drain. Thanks for joining us for Engineering at Home. Remember to like and subscribe for more content like this.